invite contest going where whoever invited the most people to the club would win a Logitech MX Master, I think 2S or something. And yeah, our winner was Jordan. So I contacted them on Discord, and yeah, we'll be shipping that out to them. And yeah, every month we'll be having this. So just keep inviting people, and we'll tally up the scores every time. And yeah, another announcement that I have is that we're going to be having our in-person meeting on a Saturday, the 26th, from 3 to 5 p.m. at Highlands, room 2202. And yeah, we're gonna be like catering food and all that type of stuff. So yeah, it's gonna be really good, and just to get to meet everyone in person because that will be our first in-person meeting since COVID. So yeah, it's been a while. And another thing, I'm not sure if we saw in the previous slide, but we have some new club art, and our design manager worked on that, and we wanted to kind of add like the semicolon and then the square bracket, but then also make it kind of like a bat and the shield. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of it. I really like it. And yeah, some other short stuff. We have all of our meeting recordings on our YouTube channel, and we're planning to host a hackathon at ACC Highlands early May or late April. So if you want to actually be an organizer or help out with that, because we need as many people as we can to help out. If you want to, you can reach out to me, and then we can see how we can, yeah, just work with you to, yeah, just put on the event. And the last thing, if you want to get added to our Google Drive, then you can just message me on Discord. But yeah, that's all the announcements we had for today. And yeah, with that, I wanted to introduce our guest speaker, Nicky from Rogue Rooster Studios, and yeah, he's gonna be talking to us today. So yeah.
Well, thank you, Nate. When Nate and Jacob reached out to me to invite me to speak, they didn't know that they were getting a BOGO because I also brought the team's artist, Raymond, who's also in the chat. I don't know if he's going to say hello or anything. See his mic, but it's all good.
Yeah, let me get on the screen. Hello. Actually, I just realized the icon you're probably seeing is from my phone in the actual camera. Let me turn this on.
Hey.
Well,
Rogue Roosters is a name and working. It's our studio's working name. We're thinking of a few other things. We may reach out and ask which one you guys would prefer over Rogue Roosters, but it's a play of my last name. Gallo in Spanish means rooster, and I went Rogue because I quit my job, so Rogue Roosters. But it's just one of the working titles we're working on. So my name is Nicholas Gallo. I am the developer of the team. We're currently two guys. Raymond is our artist and 3D modeler and a landscaper extraordinaire. We are working on a title called Fairway Evil. It is a mix of Resident Evil and Mario Golf. And in the game, you assume the role of somebody who works for a company called Parasol, and you are invited to a getaway resort on the company dime to play golf. And as you play golf, you run into zombies on the fairway, and you have to take them out and uncover the mysteries of Parasol and why there's zombies on the fairway. I didn't want to do PowerPoint slides or anything like that. I didn't want to do like a boring lecture where I'm just dictating like, oh, I'm such a, genius developer. You know what I mean? Like that's boring. You guys go to school, you get enough of that. So I wanted to leave it open for questions. If you have questions, just leave them out in the chat. If not, just interrupt me. It's all good. I have some talking points I'll go over. I was going to talk a little bit more about why we picked Unity. I was going to have Raymond talk about his journey with Unity because he's relatively new to it. In school, I think he used Unreal for one project, right, Raymond?
Yeah. Well, when I went to school, I took the VFX program. So I learned a lot about film stuff and 3D animation for film and CGI integration for like real life projects. But I wasn't getting any experience with learning how to do art for video games. So during our second year, we were supposed to choose our specialty or an area of the industry that we were supposed to specialize in. And because I wanted to kind of expand my job opportunity pool, I chose to do 3D modeling, since that's a skill that is can be transferred across many different industries. So I started to do a lot of all my side projects became based around learning how to do game art specifically for video games, and that's where I picked up Unreal.
So Raymond is a great test case, right? Jacob asked me, he said, Nick, will you speak? And I said, well, what do you want me to talk about? And I said, we'll talk about Unity and like what's so great about Unity. I've been doing it for a couple years now. I actually started a small company when I was working for Cessna, which is an aircraft manufacturer that I was an electrical engineer at. I started a small company called Quick Draw Studios, and we released 2 titles using Unity. We released a trivia app for bars. It was a customizable trivia app that they can buy a TV, connect a cheap computer to, and run custom questions, and they can modify it. And it did pretty well. And then we made a VR game, which was a complete disaster. I mean, I'm talking dumpster fire extraordinaire. It was called Space Slam. If you want to bleed from your eyes, Google it. It is terrible, but it is something that we made. And it was a great learning experience. I'm not gonna lie. Every failure is a good opportunity to learn. I really like Unity because, well, one, the licensing agreement's really good. You know, you don't pay unless you make money. You get all the features right out of the box, except for, you know, back in the day you couldn't get dark mode, but now you can get dark mode, and so all is good. It runs really well. It compiles very quickly. It's intuitive. I mean, Raymond has become from 0 to hero in no time flat. What really makes it powerful is the asset store. You can go on the asset store, and if you have a problem, you can find a solution. And if you just want to learn, you can look at it, and there's some really great developers doing some really great stuff, all the way from just shader writing in CG and HSL, high level shader language, HLSL. It's so confusing. HLSL to inverse kinematics to one of my new favorite tools, which actually removes something from Unity, which I want to talk about, which I think is so incredible. If you don't like something about Unity, you can just take it out and throw it in the garbage and replace it with something else. Also, I really like C#. We were talking about Rust and Go and Lisp and all these other languages, and C# is a very just solid language. I don't think it's very poetic. I don't think it's very beautiful, but it just gets the job done, and it doesn't get in your way. It doesn't, you know, trip you up. I think it's a great language for writing games. I wanted to show you what an empty Unity project is, and then I think it'd be cool if Raymond showed us what he was working on and how some of these assets that we've purchased have helped us make the game. Raymond right now has been working on UI stuff, and he's also been setting up the levels with the trees and the mountains and with all the assets that he's been creating. So I'm going to share my screen. Show them everything. Oh, okay. All right, let's minimize this. All right, so this is what you get when you open up Unity, right? So you download the Unity Hub, right? And the Unity Hub is great because it manages which version of Unity you have, and it manages all your projects. This is, I think, the most confusing thing about Unity, and it's in the beginning. And it's, well, how do you start a project? You got 2D core, 3D sample scene, HDRP, blah, 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 and all these other crazy things that come out. And I think that this is relatively new. Unity used to be just start a project and go, and it was very friendly. But if you want to start a 2D game, you click 2D. If you want a 3D game, click 3D, and that's it. Once you do that, it builds a project for you, and this is what you get, right? It's pretty blank. And I think that this is the beauty of Unity in comparison to Unreal. Unreal doesn't assume that you're a beginner or this is the first time you ever made a video game. It's just, here you go. It's time to rock and roll. Here are all these things and all these buttons you got to figure out and all these different panels. And C++ is a monster of a language. It's so C++. So Unity's great at keeping it approachable and accessible. So I think we should go from this blank screen, right, to what our project looks like. And I think Raymond should take over if he can. I don't know. Can he take over, Nate?
I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I don't
that,
have my.
Oh, that's
Sorry.
right, dude. That's right. That's right. I'll do it then. I'm gonna do it. So,
Yeah.
am I still sharing?
I do have that nature demo environment as a video if that's just easier to play while we talk about it. Or you can pull up the project.
What I was hoping to share was how we've changed Unity, right? Like how we've added different assets and we've grown it to ourselves, right? We've made it to our own fitting, right? I know Unreal does that too. I don't know what they call them. I don't think they call them assets. Does anybody know what Unreal calls their like things that you buy and include? You plug into the
Marketplace.
Oh,
the marketplace. Thank
yeah.
you. So I know it has its marketplace, and I'm pretty sure it's very similar. But if no one's ever seen a game engine, I mean, this is like incredibly powerful, right? This is why you would probably never want to make your own game engine because you couldn't compete. You know what I mean? Like it's just like you can't compete with dudes doing inverse kinematics from Bulgaria who are selling it for $50. You know, when somebody at Epic gets paid $100,000 to do it. You know what I mean? You're just not going to be able to do it. You know. So I don't really have the pretty version of the game. So I just wanted to show that we're using these different things that aren't included with the normal Unity. And we've even been able to make our own tools because that's how open Unity is. It may not be open source. You may not be able to look at the source code like Unreal, which is truly the benefit of Unreal. But you can make your own tools and you can customize it. And this is why we like Unreal. I mean, we do like Unreal, but we also like Unity. And that's why we're choosing to use it because it's a bit more approachable. There's tons of resources. C# is a great language. And I think I should just jump into what we've been doing. Right now, I am working on something. I am working on a custom bite mechanic. So I'm a huge fan of Resident Evil. And I think it's a great game. It's really beautiful, especially the remakes. But it's a little cheesy that the bite is the same every single time, right? It just goes in from the side and the zombie bites you in the neck and it's really gross, but it's always the same bite, right? So right now I'm working with inverse kinematics to automate the bite process. So the character, right? This is our character Jody. She's looking at the thing because her and this is a bare bones scene. This is called a gym, right? All I want to focus on is the zombie and the main character, so I took out everything else. And so the main character, right, has these things called grab points, right? I've made these game objects that have these components. I wrote a custom script called grab point, right? And the zombie looks for these grab points and tries to hold on to them. Let's see if he'll do it.
Do the thing.
Do the thing. There we go. So he grabs the shoulders, right? And then he lets go, right? And that's what I've been trying to design are these custom grab points. So if the zombie, you're able to knock the zombie onto the ground, right? And if he's on the ground, I want him to look for the grab points that are on the ankles, right? Or, or somewhere on the leg and grab them that are closest to the zombie, to the player. And that's what I'm currently working on. I don't know if does anyone want to see the code?
Yes, definitely.
So to preface, I'm an electrical engineer. That's what I went to school for. I know transistors and Zener diodes and things like that. I have taught myself to program over the years. So if this makes your eyes want to catch on fire, I am sorry. But so what would you like to see about the code? Would you like to see how I have implemented this bite or?
Let's see how you implement grab points and how it actually goes to attach them.
Okay. All right. So the zombie has different animation states, right? So I'm not using Unity's built-in animation system called Machinima. I actually have removed it. Well, it's still in the game, but I don't use it, right? So it's as if I've removed it from my project. I removed it from my project. So I am using something else called Animancer, which is a degraphed version of the animation system, right? So I'm able to program the different states instead of having to connect them with like a blueprint visual programming style, right? If I know how to program, why am I doing a visual style programming when I could just program it? Was my thinking. And to tell you the truth, I'm in love with it. And so we have these different states that the zombie can be in, which drive the animations. The player approaches the zombie, right? It detects if the player is close enough through the behavior tree. Once it gets close enough, it sees if it's in the right position, right? It goes into this bite state. It sees if the player is close enough to the zombie. If it's not, it returns. This shouldn't be hard coded. Never hard code anything. I'm just being lazy and didn't put in the inspector. But anyways, it makes sure that the player is close enough. If it's not, it goes to this enum that it inherits from its character state. It goes this enum, right, and it says that it's finished its state, so it kicks it out of it, right? It kicks it out of the state, and it goes back to idling or goes back to being dead or whatever, right? If all the parameters have been met, it takes these players' grab points, right, which are on the left side and the right side. I've declared because I made it into an enum. That is also an enum, right? It's just a simple thing. These components are on the shoulders of the player. It looks for the best one. Let's see. What else is grab point stuff? The hand placement, right? So the hands look for the closest point, right? Unless it's been specified by the enum, right? Finds it and attaches itself to it, right? Once that's done, once the animation's done, it disables them. I turn off the states and I go back into idle. And that's basically it. If it hasn't been defined, right, if these grab points haven't been defined, it'll just go for it, right? And so the way that I was thinking is if you have a dog, right, a dog doesn't have two hands. It doesn't matter where it bites. The zombie, the positioning matters because if I'm grabbing the player from the front or from the back, the hands will have to change, right? The placement of the shoulders and where they are have to change, right? But a dog, if it bites you on the leg, it doesn't matter if it's in the front or the back because it only has one mouth. I also wanted to have this kind of system if I had a zombie octopus or something, right? I can add multiple points on the character and it can grab onto them and hurt them. So yeah. I don't know, any other questions?
So I know we've been talking about ray tracing, and you implementing that. Yeah, I actually wanted to see where you would even put that in, because I know we've been talking about that a lot.
So ray tracing is interesting, right? Unity has built-in ray tracing like Unreal, where you can just click a button and it'll do it. Let me load up Raymond's work. So this is scene-driven development. These are all different scenes. They contain different game objects, which you can put different scripts on, different components. And it's really nice to do this. This is what builds, right? So you would put this into the build list, and this is what makes your actual game. See. So this is what Raymond's been working on. Is basically terrain placement, the beautification of the game, level design, things like that. Let me see. I was gonna immediately go to our mansion, but our contractor is still working on the mansion because that would be a perfect case for ray tracing. We have a fountain, which would be another perfect case because there's water.
But would it be mainly the trees then too, right? And maybe the player model, because I know that most people will pay more attention to the ray tracing on the actual player that you're moving around, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that has to be the focus of the game, right? You want to spend most of your time developing and designing the main character because that's what you're going to be spending the entire adventure with.
Definitely.
So you definitely want your character to have. So this is like the one thing I'm still investigating with ray tracing, right? You need physics-based rendered textures and materials in order for ray tracing to work. I would defer to Raymond because I know you're doing a lot of the lighting right now. You're using those spheres. Those, what are they called again, dude?
Yeah, reflection probes. And so the reflection probes basically, I mean, you can light a scene, but a lot of times when you're lighting a scene, you're only lighting from a few angles. And a lot of times they're, especially with reflective objects, like a lot of metals and stuff like that, it's good to have these reflection probes in the scene, which is basically just floating spheres in the environment that are very reflective, and they essentially help bounce the light around, so you get more accurate lighting. And I think I don't know a whole lot about ray tracing, but what I know about it, I'm pretty sure it's with the reflection probes. Basically, it's a lot of pre-baked lighting, and ray tracing is for like real-time stuff. Is that right?
Yeah.
Like as it's happening in game. So if you were to like walk by a torch, that light would then, be put on the player in real time. It wouldn't be like a pre-baked thing. But so especially since a lot of the environment we've been working on so far has been during the daytime, is when is the time in which the demo takes place. So we don't have a lot of like artificial light in our scene yet.
Y'all think he'll make like something, like a day and night cycle, or would it just be all day, like all the
I think
time?
I'm pretty sure it would probably. We're thinking about it, starting around mid-afternoon or so at the beginning of the game, and then as you go throughout the game, it gets more and more nighttime. I'm not sure if it ever becomes morning yet, or if we have a full cycle or anything, but I'm pretty sure it's probably it'll be a linear one go. So we definitely will have to put some lamps and torches and lights in this game at some point in the environments, because you will be traveling back to these areas, and they'll need to be lit somehow.
Yeah, definitely excited to see that. I mean, I always like to see like just really cool ray tracing, lighting effects, and everything like that. So awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we were trying to, so like, I'll talk a bit more about the business side of things. We wanted to release this game on Switch and PS4 and basically on everything that we could. But then we started to develop more of a realistic style, and we noticed that the trees were, just more resource intensive. And so I think we're going to drop a Switch release and focus more on, PS5 and the PC. And so ray tracing's back on the table is the essence of the story. And so now I have to think about how I will implement it into the rendering pipeline that we've chosen, right? Because we've chosen the universal rendering pipeline over the high definition rendering pipeline. And the reason why is because the high definition rendering pipeline is more for industry, because Unity has been trying to get into manufacturing and into all sorts of other things that have nothing to do with video games, but can use something like a game engine. And so HDRP, high definition rendering pipeline, hasn't been made for games. So we have to use the universal rendering pipeline, which doesn't have the built-in click it and set it ray tracing. So I have to develop it from scratch. And that's when I started to talk to Jacob, and there's like a book that I wanted to read, and I haven't had time because I've been reading all these
Same
other
here.
books.
Same here, dude. Haven't had time at all.
I haven't had time because also we're planning to release this game in April, or we're trying to pitch to publishers at the end of April. And so I can show a bit of our pitch deck. This is who we are. our mentor, I wanted to, name drop Brent Sodman. He's the guy who made Enter the Gungeon, and he's one of my best friends. He's been mentoring both Raymond and I on this game. So lots of love to him. But another thing that I remember Jacob asking me was, how do I organize the development of the game? Or how do we organize the development of the game? And there's many ways that I used to do it. Originally, I just had a legal pad and I would just write out what was wrong with the game and just knock off the problems that were on that page and then go to the next page. And it quickly became a nightmare. I have a friend who is a project manager, and he was a project manager for the Coast Guard. So, I think he knows what he's talking about. And we did some research and we landed on Codex. And I love Codex. I don't know about you, Raymond, but I love it. For example, I just noticed that the golf swing had a bug in it because I just rewrote this animation pattern for this Animancer asset that I use, right? So I just went in here, I made a card for it, right? Like I need to add this, I'm calling it the Brent animation pattern to this golf swing state. I wrote it up, put it in my hand, and now, the next work day, which is probably tomorrow, I will come look at this. I'll hit the play button. I'll do my work, and I'll check it off. And this one, the way that Codex works is that there's. Oh, let me just, since I'm working right now. The way Codex works is you create different decks, right? And you create different decks based on the needs of the project, right? So I have split them up into different mechanics and into different systems that need to be developed, right? So, for example, what's a good one? Bugs is really big. I have this bug deck, which I put in all the bugs that I find throughout development, and I just throw them in here. I can rank them by priority, high, medium, or low, so that if I have 4, I can determine which one is more important, right? There's even stats for this Fibonacci sequence, for example, tells me the effort it would take to do this work. I can do different milestones, right? So we have different milestones. We have the end of March. We have the end of April, which is when we should be presenting our game or our vertical slice. And I mean, it's a really simple tool. It's nothing really extravagant. And I mean, I really enjoy it. What else?
Yeah. There's like 3 other questions in the chat.
Sorry.
Yeah, so Beth asked, on a higher level, could you explain the process of starting development, creating a company? Like, what are the logistics of it? I know you kind of mentioned in Codex, but like I guess, how did you come up with the idea? And yeah.
Oh, for sure. All right. So I'll talk about the idea and then why I quit my job, making airplanes to do it. So when I was in high school, I played golf and I really enjoyed it, right? I went to a nice high school and they did a partnership with like this 5-star, 4-star, whatever, the highest amount of stars you get for a hotel. And we were able to play there for free, right? So it was a dream come true, right? I mean, you're learning how to play a sport and you're playing at one of the best golf courses in the country, right? So I got free lessons and I was getting pretty good. And when we went to go play competitions, there was something that the training never really happened, right? And it's something that golf games and you don't see on TV, right? Because like when you see Tiger Woods or whatever, he gets in a golf cart and he drives off and there's no big deal. But when you play at the high school level, you have to carry your clubs and you have to walk with the guy right next to you who's been kicking your ass for the past 9 holes, right? And so it starts to get to you. It starts to like put this humongous strain that this kid who's been playing since he was 12 years old with, daddy's $2,000 clubs, who's whipping your ass, and you have to walk with him in silence for miles. You know what I mean? Golf courses are huge. And so I thought golf games are really fun, but they're missing this element of tension, right? They're missing also this beautiful walk. They're also walking in this beautiful landscape. It's perfect. Everything is great, but it was missing these elements, right? And I wanted to bring them into a golf game. But I thought, most people aren't going to want to walk around. Imagine Horizon Zero Dawn, but golf. I mean, that sounds terrible. I mean, without the dinosaurs or without the people or anything, right? So I thought that was really boring. So I sat on the idea for a bit. I'm also a really avid airsofter. I love to play airsoft. And so one day I was looking at the BBs and I was like, man, this looks like a golf ball, man. And it just clicked. It just clicked. I said, what if you were shooting something on the green to each hole? And so I said, well, what are you shooting? I mean, you can't shoot like another Navy SEAL or something, or another like combatant. You got to shoot something that's kind of stupid, that's just in the way. And so zombies. So the zombies act as a way to add that tension, right? So like as you go on the golf course, you don't know what you're going to face, right? You don't know what's going to be there. So it adds this level of tension that I used to have as a kid, right, playing golf, that I can convey to everyone else. There's also a few other mechanics that have come together. Like, so in Resident Evil 3, you have the grenade launcher, right? It's Jill Valentine's like #1 weapon, right? It's what she uses to kill Nemesis and kill everything. So I was thinking, the grenade launcher has an arc. Maybe I can use that instead of a golf club, right? I can use it could be grenade launcher golf. I was like, that's pretty fun, like people like grenade launchers and people kind of like golf. So like maybe that's perfect. But it was really hard to explain, why the hell are you playing golf with a grenade launcher? And then I remembered my golf coach. There was a training exercise we used to do. You would take a golf ball, right? You would take a golf ball with your hand and you would drop it and you would try to hit it, right? You would try to lob the golf ball. And then I said, well, what if the golf balls exploded? What if you had golf balls that also had frost and freeze? And then I thought, that's my grenade launcher. And now I don't have to explain why you're playing golf. You're just playing golf, right? You're just playing golf with weird golf balls. And that's way easier to explain than why am I playing golf with a grenade launcher? So that's how I came about the idea. It was a long process. And I quit my job to do this because I love video games. And I was in the jungles of Mexico working on aircraft for the Mexican Air Force. And I wanted to get out. I wanted to go back home because it was really hard and it was spooky because El Chapo was still like a big thing and his son just got out of jail and they blew him up out of prison. If you want to see some crazy videos, look up El Chapo's son's escapes from jail, and it's like the craziest shit you'll ever see in your life, right? And so my wife and we wanted to get out. So I was talking to my boss. I was like, yo, boss man, I have 2 years done here. I don't want to get out. There's this other position which had to use Unity to make, my company was contracting with Uber to make the Uber flying car, and they were going to use Unity and AR to do the cockpit, right? So it was to be this fast, rapid prototyping of the cockpit so they wouldn't have to build an actual physical thing. So I found out about this job and I was really excited about it. And I talked to my boss about it. I was like, yo, I found my dream job. Can I please do this? Because it mixes my passion of engineering and video games. And my boss said this, and I'll never forget. Nick, sometimes we need to put our dreams behind us so that we can worry about our careers. I was in the middle of a hangar, in the middle of the jungle of Mexico, sweating bullets because it was 100 and something degrees. There was these soldiers running around with aircraft, and I was like, yo, if this isn't enough, what is? Where do you get to cash in and do the things you want to do? And so that was it. That was the moment I was like, yo, forget this. I can't do corporate anymore. I have to try this. I have to try to make video games. And so 6 months later, I quit my job. My wife and I moved to Austin, and it's been a wild ride ever since, man. It's been crazy. I don't know. Did that answer anybody's questions? I don't know. I just started blabbing.
It did. Pretty inspiring stuff, man. That's a pretty wild story too, honestly. But no, it's all together. Like once it all came together, and now you're developing this game, so it's pretty awesome to see it all come together. Yeah.
Yeah, Raymond, do you want to tell them how we met? That's a good story.
Yeah.
That's a good story.
So I first wanted to just say something about because he talked about his story, but there was also a question about how did we come about starting a business and stuff.
Yeah.
And that, I think it's a lot to do with the same kind of thing. Like I feel like a lot of times there's so much that we're capable of doing, but we just don't think is possible or something like that. Like we prevent ourselves from trying to take big risks or do big things because uh, we really just are not sure of how capable we are of doing stuff. But whenever you're pushed and put to the limit, like when it's riding on the line and there's no other choice, sometimes like you really surprise yourself a lot with what you're capable of. So like starting the business thing is one of those things that you just kind of, it sounds like an impossible, really ridiculous thing, but you just have to, sometimes you just have to jump in, and jumping in you just have to swim with the sharks, and it will, things just kind of fall into place a lot easier than you think. I mean, it's hard, don't get me wrong, but it's also easier than you think. The story of how we met. So, like I said, I went to AIE, which was the Academy of Interactive Entertainment. They had a bunch of different programs you can take. They have like a game art program where you can learn about all making game art stuff. You can take the programming or coding program, which teaches you about all different kinds of like coding for video games. And there was also a VFX program, which is the one I took. Like I said, it basically taught us everything about 3D animation for film and CGI and stuff like that. So I started my first, they're 2-year programs, and I started my first year in Lafayette, which is where I'm from, Lafayette, Louisiana. And for my second year, I wanted to move to the Seattle campus, which was the only other campus in the country. I wanted to move to Seattle since the industry was much bigger there. And I just figured, coming straight out of college, it would be really good for me to just be there and start growing my network before I even graduated. So I decided to move up there, finish my last year, and pretty much was doing everything I could to be prepared for the job search and what was going to happen after college. But and then of course with Corona and everything, that made job searching a completely new ball game. So I graduated, moved to Austin, and for a year was just looking for work in the games or film industry, and just wasn't finding anything. I didn't even get an interview once. I got a couple of emails back from people, probably just bots telling me we decided to move on to other applicants, but I wasn't even approaching nearly anything. So I was just a couple of days away from having to go back and applying at McDonald's again because I just needed to get another job. And I decided to just, take one more crack at trying to go and get a job. My favorite thing was always to go in person, bring resumes to places and stuff like that, and actually get to talk to people face to face. But for some reason, like a lot of places, especially like I said during this whole pandemic, a lot of places were keeping their lobbies closed. So I wasn't ever really able to meet anyone. So one of the ideas I had was I made the sign and basically just wrote really big on the sign that I was a 3D artist looking for a job. I put some of my skill set on there, some of my work experience on there, and walked around with the sign downtown. I did this a few days. I'd just be down there all day, and one of the days I was lucky enough to meet Nicky, who I was just taking a rest, sitting on one corner, thinking about how many more people am I going to meet today that are just going to be giving me dead ends. And all of a sudden, this car just whips around the corner and starts honking and rolls down the window. This dude driving the car is completely losing his mind. And he's like yelling at me like, "Kid, get over here! You got a business card? Like, give me that shit!" And so I ran out into the street to give him my card and everything. And he's telling me, "Look up this game called Fairway Evil," and I was like, "Damn, this dude is so excited! Like, he looks like he's living the best life. He probably works for some crazy nice company, and maybe this is my in to some really big studio or something." And so we get to talking, and he's telling me about this indie game he's working on. I'm like, at first I'm like, oh shit, I've heard this one over and over again. Oh, I'm working on this indie game. Could you help me out with some art stuff? And at first I was very hesitant, and then he told me about his friend Brent, and who has been his mentor for a few years. And I realized that this opportunity went from a 1 to a million instantaneously as soon as I heard about Brent. And then as I got to know Mickey more, I mean, Nicky's got to be one of the most hard-driven people I've ever met. And it's, on top of having a lot of resources that he provides, I mean, he himself is one of the best partners I've ever worked with.
Yeah, I'll remember that. I'll never forget that day because my brother. So I come from a family of businessmen, right? And we haven't even talked about the business part, and we're almost done here. But anyways, I come from a family of businessmen, and my brother and father made a very successful business in Miami. That's where I'm from. It has to do with permits, and so Austin is exploding with construction right now. So they wanted to come in and open up a new version of a new branch of their company. And so my brother and we just came from Terry Black's, and I was dropping him off at his hotel. And so we're driving along South Lamar, I think it's South Lamar, or Congress. We're driving down Congress, and it gets quiet. And I know when it gets quiet, that's bad news. You know what I mean? I'm about to get torn up. So my brother goes, "Nick, you need to stop this video game shit. This is for children. You know what I mean? You are an electrical engineer. You're a professional. You need to go back to work, and you need to help out with the family. You know what I mean? Or better yet, you need to come and work for the family here in Austin." And I said, "Damien, all I need is a 3D artist, man. If I can find a 3D artist, I'll be golden." We hit up this red light. For whatever reason, we both look to the right, and we see this kid, and he has this sign with a pizza box. You know what I mean? We're like, what is he protesting? Is he begging for money? What's this kid about? 3D artist looking for work. Are you kidding me? It was like an angel from God. It came from the sky and put him on that corner. You know what I mean? It just couldn't. My brother and after I took Raymond's card and I dropped my brother off at the hotel, man, he just opened the car door, looked at me, and he said, "You lucky son of a bitch." He got out and slammed the door.
I still can't believe how insane that is. Like, I was walking around for at least 8 hours that day downtown. I was just zigzagging. I was going north to south, east to west, just zigzagging through the streets all day long. I could have been literally anywhere, and it was right there at that time. I mean, I don't know. That kind of shit is just I have no words.
Yeah, I have no words. Does anyone want to hear about the business side of stuff? Well, we have like 2 seconds left. Yeah, okay. So business is really annoying, right? So someone asked, have we been incorporated yet? We have been in the process of incorporation for a while now. And it has nothing to do with actually the incorporation part, right? Any one of us can go on the Texas State Registrar and register a company with $100, and boom, you can be Nate Jacob LLC, programmers extraordinaire or whatever, right? What takes the longest is like the contract stuff, right? So Raymond and I have been hashing things out. That's one aspect of it. Another thing is, how do we want to run the company, right? You have to write your bylaws and you have to agree to them. Another thing is, acquiring assets or capital and stuff like that, right? Thankfully, we have Brent and a few other people who have been very interested in the game. So building a business is easy and it's very rewarding, but it can be very annoying if you want to do it correctly. And I really suggest you do it correctly. The first business I started, my buddy wrote the contract, and When I left the company, I milked them for every penny because I could, because it's business. You know what I mean? So definitely get a lawyer, get an accountant, do it right. Make sure everything's crispy clean. You know what I mean? Make sure that you like the people that you're going to work with. It's like getting married. You don't want to marry somebody you know you're going to divorce or think you might divorce or whatever. Games are very interesting, right? Because you're not making pizzas. You know what I mean? You're making this thing that takes 2 years and then you sell it and then hopefully it makes money. So everyone looks at you like you're crazy. Thankfully, we live in Austin where it's not so unheard of. You know, when I was making my business, it was in Wichita, Kansas, right? It was, you know, like if you started a business, it was something to do with farming or planes or whatever. So when we went to the accountant and we said, oh, we won't make money for another 2 years, she was like, well, why are you here? Like, go away. You know, I mean, bug me when you actually have cash, which is not the right way to do business, right? You want to make sure that you have rapport and you have, a relationship with the professionals you do business with, whether it's your lawyer, your accountant, or whoever, right? What else about business? Finding a name is really hard. I gotta lie, it's really stupid. Names are who cares about what is Adidas? What is, you know, Nike? We know it's Greek for victory, but who gives a crap, right? I mean, in all honesty, but it is hard, and it does slow down the process because you want it to be super cool. You want it to be so cool that people will care, but nobody really cares. You know what I mean? What is Tropicana? What does that even mean? You know? Hold on. Let's see what I got. Oh, the promise. Thank you. That's Bethany, by the way. Bethany, everybody, with the good questions. She said, what about the process of being published? It is a very intensive and time-consuming road. The thing that matters most is the vertical slice, right? But it's not the only thing that matters. Let me rewind. What's a vertical slice, right? A vertical slice is a small portion of your game. Think of it as a demo, but a very polished demo, right? And it's supposed to present and give you the idea of what the game will be. And hopefully the vertical slice is good enough that the publisher says, we want more, right? We want more of this game. What makes publishing really hard is that making video games is really hard, right? You need a bunch of different kind of professions. You need artists, you need programmers, you need sound people, you need other artists to make other kinds of assets, right? Like Raymond can't, not that Raymond can't, but Raymond doesn't specialize in character art, right? So we have to go and find somebody. Thankfully, Raymond knows somebody who's really good, and we were able to contract them. But you know, making games is serious business. And finding people is really hard, right? You want people on your core. You want people on your side so that when you go to do a pitch or you go to a publisher, they'll help you create the best content that you can have, right? So right now, Raymond and I, thanks to being involved in the community, which I highly recommend if you're in video games, if you want to get into video games, and if you want to seriously try to get published, I really recommend entering groups like ATX Game Makers or Games Y'all or Fantastic Arcade as they're being rebranded, and putting yourself out there, right? Like volunteering into the different events that happen and getting your feet on the ground, right? Because a lot of people want to make games. Publishers get hundreds of pitches a day, right? And they're definitely going to pick the ones from the people that they know, right? And thankfully, we live in Austin, which is the second Seattle, right? It's the second LA. It's a very big game hub where you can go meet some very important people. I had lunch with one of the executive producers of Farbridge on Monday, and he helped me write my pitch deck, right? That's not something you're going to get in Saskatchewan, you know, Idaho, wherever Saskatchewan is. Who cares? You know what I mean? It's not here. So I would, man, this is what Raymond and I are currently going through, and I'm talking about the steps we're currently in because it's still on my mind. And getting into video games is very difficult. What Brent always says is, if get into video games if it's the only thing you know you want to do, right? If you think you can do something else only by a little bit, don't do video games, right? Because it's so competitive and so hard, and there's so many working things that can go wrong, right? That if you're not truly passionate about it, don't attempt it, right? That's a little too harsh, but I mean, you should probably do something else, you know. And as I've been doing this for 2 years, it is hard. And there's days where you want to quit and you don't want to do this anymore. You know what I mean? There's days you're just like, I can just go back and make, $100,000 or whatever. Like, why am I sitting in my sweatpants? You know what I mean? Trying to make this stupid thing animate. But it's worth it in the end. It is really worth it in the end. I don't know. Does anyone have any specific questions?
I had one in mind.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. What has been the hardest part of establishing this business? Like taking everything into consideration, like getting. I think it's just y'all too, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know if y'all need more employees. You said sometimes you hire contractors, or maybe I misunderstood. But there's a lot of things that you have to take into account when you create a business, specifically gaming business. So out of everything, what has been the hardest part for you?
The hardest part so far, it's been finding partners. Thankfully, God sent me Raymond on the street corner. You know what I mean? Like it's so hard to find people to work with because before Raymond, there was two other guys I was trying to start the business with, and they were, worried about other stuff. I mean, I don't want to talk poorly about them. I'm not trying to gossip or anything, but they were just, their minds and their drive was focused completely somewhere else. Even though they had the skills and they would have made great partners if they focused, but they didn't, right? And so it's so hard to find somebody who can keep up with you. And I thank God every day I have Raymond because he does a great job. I mean, I'm so happy to have found him, but definitely the hardest thing is finding people. Wouldn't you agree, Raymond? Or what do you think is one of the
Sorry,
hardest?
you cut out a lot towards the end there.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, dude. For me the hardest part has definitely been the stress of making starting to make these contracts and stuff like that. When you're really signing your name on paper, it's really intimidating, especially if it's like some of the first times that you're doing it and you're talking about like I was saying earlier, the idea of starting a business and having your name on a business just sounds huge, especially when you're kind of lack a lot of experience with it. It's really frightening. And I think the hardest part has been just dealing with that stress. But other than that, I mean, I've worked on many projects in the past, and they've all been way more stressful than this. I mean, it's a lot of pressure and a lot of writing on this, and this is probably the largest workload I've ever had. But like, I'd have be way more stressed out if I had any other partner than Nicky. I trust him a lot. He's, like I said, he's one of the most driven people I've ever known. I know he's got my back, and it makes when I look over beside me and I see someone who's handling this stuff confidently, it makes me feel confident too.
Sorry, Raymond, you're lagging pretty badly there. Yeah, we still got the point across though. It was just a little difficult to hear you.
I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time, so I don't know how is it okay to go over?
I
Should
mean,
we wrap it up?
maybe I can just wrap up the meeting officially, and then we can like
Am I
keep
still
talking
muted?
after. Because I still want to hear more. I think yeah.
There is something I wanted to share in the general Discord, if I can, Jacob and Nate, if
Yeah,
I can put a bunch of resources for game
for
development.
sure, for sure.
I would also really appreciate it if everyone joined our Discord and went to our website and checked out our game.
Mhm.
It means the world to us if you subscribe to our YouTube, subscribe to all the different things. Also, join ATX Game Makers. Tell them that I sent you their way. Donald Harris, the guy who runs it, will take good care of you. Games Y'all or Fantastic Arcade, it's getting rebranded. It's a bit messy, but it is a safe, good place. I'm going to put this in the general chat. It's going to be a bunch of links for resources that I've used, that I love. If you have any questions, please come to me. Please go to Raymond. You know what I mean? I am here to help. I want to help. So yeah, it was great talking to you guys. It's fantastic. I hope it was useful. I hope it wasn't too much babbling, but yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys. And yeah, if you can just put those links in the Discord or even in this chat, that would be really great. But yeah, don't want to take up more of your time. So thanks everyone for coming to our general meeting. You can hang around if you want to talk more. But yeah, basically in these general meetings, what we do is just talk about a specific topic and have a guest speaker. But if you really want to get into the code, we have like 4 different projects going on in the Discord. Like we have a website portfolio, browser game, machine learning project, and working on a Discord bot, and we also have our Wednesday events with homework help and interview prep. So yeah, there's a bunch of options out there, and they're all on our Google Calendar. So yeah, if you have to head out, yeah, thank you so much for coming. Yeah, this is a great meeting. Let me go
So-
find this link.
I'm gonna stick around because still want to hear what you guys say.
Say I'm sticking around.
Yeah.
So what else?
Unfortunately, I have to go to the gym, so I'll be heading out. But I joined the Discord. I'll take a look into that later.
Thank you.
Later.
Thank you. Thank you. Guess Wolf.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Have you really considered like doing mobile app development, like for games?
Yeah. So have we considered, or you were considering? Sorry.
No, I'm asking, have y'all? Like, have
Um,
you ever done it before or anything?
I haven't. I actually in Wichita, Kansas, when I was working with QuickDraw, we made something called oh man, it was like a Pokemon Go for the city of Wichita. We used Unity for it. Actually, we made another game. We made another game for Riverfest. It was like the Riverfest game. So we use Unity for that development. And I mean, besides the fact that there's a million different types of phones, developing for phones is no different than developing for computer, just a less resource intensive computer, right? I mean, Unity takes care of all like the really complicated stuff like the make files and, pushing the build onto the phone. And the Android store is pretty easy. I hate Apple and I hate the iStore. Working with Apple is a nightmare, and I wish it not even on my worst enemy for them to do business with them. It is terrifying and terrible. But yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, you've had ideas for stuff, right, Raymond? Do you have ideas for app stuff for more mobile, more casual?
I think Raymond left.
No, he's up. He's
Yeah.
Emily now.
Yeah. No, I really enjoy, one of my favorite pastimes is just going to the App Store and just picking up a quick game to play. I mean, I usually end up deleting it in an hour, but it's really fun to just see a bunch of other game concepts and stuff and kind of get the creative juices flowing on like what kind of, micro games can be made. One of my favorite games was always WarioWare Inc. It was basically just like if you were to take Mario Party and make it only Flash games, and they're really raunchy, but it was really cool to just I loved just the quick pace of going from one game idea to another.
I mean, the mobile market is one that I'm not really aware of. It is usually your focus. Like you either design for literally you design for mobile or you design for literally, I think, everything else, right? Because it's such a consuming monster, right? It's there's so much money, and everybody has a phone, right? Like everybody now has a Game Boy, basically. Um, so how do you market for that? Takes a totally different kind of strategy and a totally different kind of publisher. Anybody who's able to do well in the mobile market has my absolute respect, because it's a monster for sure.
Unless you make a Flappy Bird clone, then it should be easy, right? Hey, I mean, I don't know how complex the code is, but I've seen that happen before.
They have so many videos on YouTube of making Flappy Bird in 30 minutes or something like that. Something ridiculous.
Mhm. I've seen that before, yeah. Or in Pygame or something like that, yeah.
Or Angry Birds or whatever, dude.
Right. Oh yeah, Nate, you could mention your smartwatch app. That was super cool. Like, I I don't have a Fitbit personally, but yeah, like I know people make apps for the Fitbit watch, and they do a lot of cool stuff with it. Even make games.
Yeah. Yeah, my watch is dead now, but yeah, it's
Oh, bro.
meant for like all Fitbit watches. So if you have a Fitbit at all, you can play my game. It's in the app gallery, so it's just some
What is
dumb.
it?
Oh yeah, let me get the link.
Nate,
I spent
Nate,
like 2 days on it, so not much effort put in, but I've gotten like I think like more than 100 downloads, so I'm happy for something I spent
No.
2 days on. Yeah,
Nate
there's
knows
my
how,
code.
he knows how to fly drones too. I'm jealous.
Yeah, I can't draw.
See, Fitbit app gallery should be. I think I have the link in the video.
Maybe we should just talk about like liquid overlay. That might be interesting.
Oh yeah, yeah. Do you have a question, Lucian? I noticed you have your hand up.
Yeah. Yeah, so firstly, thank you so much for speaking at our club. I really love everything you said. I like when you were first describing the game idea, I was like, okay, yeah, sure, zombies, and you were like, combined with Mario Golf, and my jaw dropped. Like, I just wasn't expecting that, and I loved it so much. I'm actually like invested in this game now. Um, yeah, but for a question, our club is just barely getting started on this like web-based JavaScript game. Like I don't think we've even written any lines of code yet, but just a basic question, like where would we even get started with like this isn't like a serious thing. We're not trying to start a business or anything. This is just like, hey, let's like work on something to learn some JavaScript and whatnot. But like, where would you recommend, just like, we have this game idea, how do we get started? Where do we even start?
I would start with whatever would get you up and running as fast as possible, right? Ideas are cheap, right? Like a lot of people have ideas, but video games, they talk to you. They tell you if it's a good idea or not, right? They'll tell you like this, if you listen, right? You have to listen. And this sounds like voodoo magic, but they'll tell you like, man, this is just not a good game. Like you should be doing X, you should be doing this more or doing this less, right? So I would say before you even start learning JavaScript or trying to think of like the complicated stuff, how can you get a little capsule or some crappy sprites to mimic or get as close to as possible to the idea that you have, right? I would get a game jam. I would get a game jam. That's another thing. We should probably do a game jam, right? At some point. I think that'd be a good thing for the club. I would set out some time and make a prototype as fast and as dirty as possible to test your idea, right? And it can be as simple as like, what is Mario? If we deconstruct Mario, Mario isn't the Goombas. Mario isn't him hitting his head on boxes. Mario is him jumping over a hole, right? When you really boil it down, that's all Mario does. That's everything else is just adding, right? It's just rolling with the idea. Mario jumps, Mario walks, and he goes over obstacles, and that's it. So that's what I would say for starting. If you know how to use Unity, or if you're a C++ guy and you want to use an API, I would just do whatever I would try to make your idea as quick and as dirty as possible.
Awesome, thank you.
Of course, dude. Also, I put
Yeah.
up my website. I forgot to do it with all the other links.
We also have some friends who spent more time kind of making quicker and kind of smaller games. Garrett and I keep forgetting his guy's name.
Caden.
Yeah.
He's the only Caden I know.
Caden. And like I said, they've been working for a couple years for the past year, just working on a bunch of small games to kind of boost their portfolio. So if you're more interested and want to talk to them, we can send you their information too.
One more thing. So, me and Nate and some other people in the club worked on a hackathon project called Liquid Overlay. Essentially, what it does is like an accessibility layer on top of the screen, it's like an overlay, and it like shows where sound's coming from. So it's like wondering, like, have you guys ever like implemented any accessibility features, and how do you go about it?
We are that's in the plans. That's in the works, right? We're still in the vertical slice phase. So we won't have any. I mean, I don't want to call them luxuries because that's insulting. But for right now, that is outside of the scope of the slice. But we're definitely wanting to add accessibility features for people with, different levels of eye strengths and other handicaps. Unity does a great job. There's actually a package you could import that it'll do it. It's not that it automatically does these things because everyone's needs are different, but it reminds you like, hey, did you remember about the colorblind people? Did you remember about the people that only have one hand or whatever? You know what I'm saying? So we definitely thought about it, but we haven't implemented it quite yet. It's further down the pipeline. It'll probably be right after we make the vertical slice. We'll start incorporating it because it's something you got to think about early.
Just real quick on the topic of accessibility, I'm sure you've heard of it, but Mark Brown, Game Maker's Toolkit, has a lot of videos on. Yeah, right, exactly. A lot of videos on that sort of stuff. So yeah.
No, Mark Brown's incredible. I mean, there's so many good YouTubers. It's overwhelming.
So when did you say you were planning on release again?
We're going to go and talk to publishers at the end of April, right? We're going to go around and show our slice. And then we hope 2 years after that. So it's still, this is very early development. It's still, this is like ground floor
Right.
stuff,
What do you like? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
When did you first start the game?
I quit my job 2 years ago, but I had to learn so much. And this is after me trying all the ways not to make the game, right? Like Edison, how he tried 1,000 ways not to make the light bulb, and then he figured it out. This is 2 years of me trying different tools and trying different assets and different ways to make games, and eventually they all had to go in the garbage because they weren't maintainable, they weren't sustainable. Tools are great, but they can give you a false sense of security, right? Like I wouldn't recommend anyone make a game engine unless they want it to do it, like to learn or the challenge it. Like I want to do it. Like don't get it twisted. It's not that but to make something like Unity is a monster, right? But making something like a character controller, that should be up to you, right? Anything that is pertinent or a foundational core to your game, you should make. If it's not, for example, like the UI, every game's got a UI. Why the hell are we spending, how many weeks did we spend on the UI, Raymond? Like 2, 3 to get nothing?
Too many.
Yeah, too many, you know what I mean? To get absolutely nothing. And so we just bought an answer and it works perfectly. And it took you how long to implement into the game? Like an hour?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And the inventory, I worked on the inventory menu today.
Yeah.
Which it wasn't really, they didn't have a template for the inventory template, or they didn't have a template for an inventory menu. But because of what they had laid out already, I was able to just kind of use that as a platform or a starting point. And so I was able to make the inventory menu today in a couple of hours. And which it's just, it's crazy the help that these tools can give you. Because like I wasn't having to do all of the UI stuff from scratch. All the hard stuff and the putting anchors and all this and that, and a lot of all that, the really hard and confusing stuff was already done, or at least was done enough to where I could, go back and forth and look at what certain things were doing so that I could go from an 80% point and bring it to 100 rather than from 0 to 100.
I mean, UI is one of the hardest things in games. I mean, the things that people don't respect in video games, the third hardest is animations, right? Which, I mean, is like, duh. I mean, it's hard to coordinate, the zombie biting or somebody shooting a gun or whatever, right? So that's kind of obvious. But the first two, most people don't know. The second hardest thing is UI. UI is a monster because I have an ultra wide. You have a 4x3. This guy over here has some weird 9x10 monitor, right? And it just screws everything up, right? And the hardest thing that nobody gives respect to are doors. Doors in video games are really, 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 really hard. I think GMTK has a video on it. I know there's a video out there somewhere that explains why doors are hard. I recommend everybody watch it and respect doors, man. They are such a pain in the ass. But yeah, there's some things like UI you would never expect to be so hard, but yeah, and then thankfully these tools exist and we're able to leverage them, and they just work, right? But sometimes a tool will work for a little while and then it'll break on you, like what I was using. I was using something called Obsive Character Controller. It did everything I thought it would want to do, right? It shot the gun, moved the character, it did all these cool VFX stuff. But when I started to try to add my own code to it, it just started to fall apart, man. It started to just disintegrate on itself. And so I had to take a year's worth of work and throw it in the garbage because this tool, I couldn't expand on it. And when I went to Brent, who's a much better programmer than I am, the guy's a genius, right? And when he said, you know what, man, like we can't do it. Like I've spent 4 hours of my time and I don't think this is possible with this tool. You got to start over. And so I did. Still have tears, but whatever. You got to move on.
How long did it take you to just be like, I'm gonna like basically throw away all the code that I worked on for like the past year? Like, was it like a 1 day thing and you just like shifted right away, or did you like have to take like a couple weeks off to just kind of cool down and then restart?
In a way, I was so frustrated with that tool. I mean, you can ask Beth. I mean, I was just getting something simple to work after I added the things that I wanted. Like, so for example, the thing that made me throw it away with Glee, dude, when I was time to throw that away, yeah, it was a year of my time and it sucks. But when I threw it away with a giant smile because all I was trying to do was change the ammo counter and I couldn't. So for example, in the game, you have different kinds of golf balls, right? So you have explosive golf balls and regular golf balls. And all I wanted to do was change the ammo counter depending on if you press the button or not. And I couldn't. Brent couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. I spent like a month trying to change an ammo counter, which is a UI thing. And so when it came time to throw it away, I was just I was happy to throw away my computer too, man. I don't even want the hard drive that code is on. That shit, man.
Oh man.
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
Yeah. But I mean, it did suck that as a year. The first year was easier, right? Because my code was bad. It was just I was still learning a lot of new things. OOP was still very new to me because I was used to embedded stuff, which is just make door open, use door sensor, right? It was very simple code, right? So the first year was like really learning and reading a lot of books. The second year hurt, but I was glad. It hurt. It was like tearing off like a cast or something, right? Or I don't know a good analogy. Yeah. But before there is a big event on March 15th. I'm going to plug. There's going to be a lot of people there. It's Fake It Till You Make It. I know that Beth posted the link somewhere. I can post it again. So ATX Game Makers will start hosting events too. Just this one is a South by Southwest thing. So it takes place on a Tuesday during the day, which sucks. And it's also 21 and over. But I thought I put it out there. I think there's going to be a lot of I think 2K is going to be there. I know Farbridge is going to be there. Maybe Rooster Teeth. So, I mean, if you want to do this stuff, I think it's wise that you go and do it. You sign up and you head out there.
I wish I didn't have work.
I know there will be an after party at what is it called, that bar, dude?
I'd probably make it to that.
Valhalla. What's up?
Holla Bar? Is that what you said?
Valhalla Bar. Yeah, there's going to be an after party, and like how these things go, they're going to be there for a long time, right? And if anybody wants to know how it's hanging, or if people are still there, just text me and I'll let you know. Like, yo, it's happened, or I'm drunk in a dumpster and my wife divorced me.
I might swing by actually if you guys are still there after 6.
Yeah, bro, just hit me up. Just
for sure.
hit me up before you go so you don't waste your time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to just like show up and be like, "Where is everybody?" Like, I was trying to drink, get wasted. No.
Yeah.
No, for sure though. Sounds like pretty cool time though.
Yo, Leanna with the facts over here. Great burger truck across from Valhalla, by the way. Yo, because the food there is not good. It was not. I'm not gonna lie. No cap. It's not. You gotta go to this burger truck.
Yeah, the food trucks here are pretty dang amazing, man. Like, I just don't know which ones to go to, honestly. I just might as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, where's this located? The bar.
Let me look it up.
Okay. Yeah.
I
mean,
know it's somewhere like on 6th or something.
Oh, okay, yeah, because it rings a bell, but I don't know if I've been there before.
Yeah, so I think I have to head out now, but last question.
Yo.
Like you mentioned that you're going to like finalize that like slice sometime in like April or like sometime then, but would that be available for like people like us to download, or would we just still have to wait? Like even something like super basic that's not polished.
Nate, for you, I make it happen. Only for you, I make it. Well, there is something you can play right now on itch.
Oh, really?
It's more of a technical demo. I just needed. I was making these build scripts in Bash, and I just wanted to see if I can push a button and build on Linux, Mac, and Windows with one button press, right? Because I was like, that would save me a bunch of time, right? That's some like cool stuff. So this thing is like, it's not that I wanted to push something new.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff got in the way this week, and unfortunately, Raymond and I weren't able to do that. But here's like a thing you can play.
Awesome.
But once it gets better, like follow the Discord. I'll contact you, Nate, and I'll let you know. I think it's going to be through Steam because that's what everyone says to do. Is to put it through like a Steam private or like off project or something. It has like a special way to not be on the store, but you can still give people keys and they can find it. Definitely everyone in the group will get one. You know what I mean? Everyone, of course, dude,
Awesome. Yeah, this definitely looks at least much better than my only itch publication too. So yeah, mine is some. I'll put it there, and I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah, dude.
It's just I was just playing around with Photon and like multiplayer stuff with sockets and stuff. So, but yeah, I gotta go. But yeah, thank you so much for coming in. Also, is it okay if we post this like unlisted to YouTube so people in the club can like watch it back?
I was gonna ask if I could steal it so I could put it on my YouTube channel. So of course,
oh yeah,
do what you want. Yeah.
Cool, awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Of course.
All right, talk
Thanks
to y'all
for
later.
having us.
Thank
thanks,
you.
Nick.
Y'all have a
Thanks,
great
Raymond.
night.
Bye.
All right, you too.